Yeah, you could say, right. So we got advice from, this is a firm that did the 2010 CRA, so they know what's going on. And they just did the Titan Stadium in Nashville. I mean, they've done over $6 billion ones, and the rough prices. It's not a lot. Yeah. So and I was like, that's an easy contribution to help move the conversation over and just say, hey, thank you guys for working on this, bringing this up, and this is a vital thing for all of us. So to me, my biggest concern is right now, taking floor plans with just squares on the board. We haven't talked to the community. We haven't done a traffic study. We don't know which one of these is better. It's just opinions. And I kind of looked at it. I was like, I even brought up a sign. Is that the worst idea? Is it the best idea? I don't know. Why don't we study it? Anyway, we'll see. I have no idea what to do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Escambia County Redevelopment Agency regular meeting, April 3rd, 2025, 9 o'clock a.m. Please turn your cell phone to vibrate, silence, or the off setting. The Board of County Commissioners allows any person to speak regarding an item on the agenda. The speaker is limited to 2 minutes unless otherwise determined by the chairman. What is your approval of publication?
This DRA meeting was published in the Pensacola News Journal on March 27, 2025.
Thank you. Are any speakers for public forum?
No speakers.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move the technical and public service consent agenda.
Thank you. We have first, please vote. That passes unanimous. Thank you. Budget, finance.
Yeah, I have two for your approval. First one, recommendation concerning residential improvement grant program funding and lien agreements, and recommendation concerning the cancellation of residential rehab grant program liens.
Chair, entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second. Please vote. That passes unanimous. Thank you so much. Okay. We have anything else?
No discussion.
Any items for discussion? I would like, Derek, at our next meeting, to bring forth, obviously, we understand, the audits and the budget cuts and the CRAs, which are been talked about at the national and state level, of being eliminated. It would be great to have maybe a 5 to 7 minute presentation of our sewer program, our roof program, our painting programs, all of the programs that we are doing, because I think that CRAs are making, I just got off the phone with a colleague in Orlando, and they're doing the same thing about what that's even done in Orange County, to kind of have a presentation so citizens will really understand the importance of CRAs and the impact that they're having in the community. And so
okay,
I'd love to see that, and I'd love to also, and I know Commissioner Hoffberger and I both represent the city, and so we'd like to see what they're doing in their CRAs as well, and the great benefit that it's happening for the community, because many of the projects, quite frankly, the biggest project at the Maritime Park wouldn't have happened without a CRA in the city. And so I'd love to see and have that presentation at our next board meeting about the projects that are happening in the CRA here in Escambia County and within the city limits.
Okay, I'll reach out to the city CRA manager also,
And we could just bring all that with a huge presentation, how many roofs we've done, how many, even with ECUA, we are doing through CRAs what ECUA is not doing.
Right.
We are doing septic to sewer connections through CRAs that people would still be on septic tanks, and that's an environmental in danger if we didn't have CRAs. And so those things are happening. But unfortunately, I think that general citizens don't know the impact of what's happening.
Correct. Okay, we definitely will have your presentation in the next meeting.
I appreciate it. Is there anything else? Cartel, we moved that. Yeah, we moved we moved the entire budget and consent agenda. Yeah, they both were moved. Was there anything else? Well, we stand adjourned, and we'll turn it over to Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, guys.
All right, everyone, we're going to move right into the Committee of the Whole workshop, so I'll go ahead and call that to order. Commissioner Strober, can you lead us in the pledge? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize, I stood up for a minute. Did you say we're going to go into the workshop portion?
Yeah, we'll do the
Okay.
agenda review at the end. Is that what you're concerned? I asked Jose to
It's-
put the Cal first, if that's all right.
Whatever you like to do is fine. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly.
Yep, that
And
was the
I know we have some guests here, but at least briefly amongst us before we hear from our guests, you know, we do have something going on. I mean, we do have a commitment from ASM to, you know, procure an update to the study for the Bay Center, and whether it's populous. I know that's what our board had mentioned, or I think there may be some conversations about, you know, whether it's populous or Gensler or HDR, you know, completing the study. I don't know where we're going to get to, you know, until we kind of have that back. I mean, I don't know what your hopes are for the discussion, but I think a lot of the decisions are going to be, you know, based on what we see as feasibility, and, you know, feasibility as far as the demand, in addition to the feasibility as far as the financial aspect of it. But just,
I agree with that. I think Commissioner May, and you can speak for this, I think your intent was to get everyone in the room that wasn't here at the last meeting to get their opinion. And I think it's more of an informational piece. But can I take care of just a couple administrative things before we jump in?
And since you said that, I mean, for a point of clarification, hopefully we have all the studies that we've done at the Bay Center. It really was, I guess this is my committee of the whole, that I didn't even remember that until Allison said it. So my real desire, and I talked to Councilperson Allison Patton on yesterday, is at some point to have a joint meeting. You know, whether it's with the school board, with the city, with the mayor. I mean, to talk about multiple issues, whether it be the Bay Center, whether it be SD Aerospace, whether it be Baptist Hospital. And it was my goal to get everyone in the room with Chappie James, with the Bay Center. All those things are intertwined because I don't represent as many as Commissioner Hoberger, but I represent a large portion of the city of Pensacola. And so it's critical to me to have an open dialogue with the mayor and with city council on how we move forward. So it was my hope, and that's still my hope and my desire, that there will be a joint meeting with the county commissioners, the city council, and quite frankly, we could add, you know, school board and ECOE, because I mean, we even have sewer, septic to sewer issues that we want to discuss. So hopefully, you know, today will be a great discussion. We can bring people together and have all the studies and not a bunch of different entities going out in different directions. I think that we got to start marching from the same sheet of music. If not, if the city's doing one thing, if, you know, the tourism committee's doing one thing, the county's doing another one, I don't think we'll ever get to a landing spot.
Yeah. I got to go back to just the administrative stuff. Has the meeting been properly advertised? I know we hadn't got there.
Mr. Chairman, this meeting was advertised in the Pensacola News Journal on March 27th, 2025, and the board's weekly meeting schedule.
Okay, thank you. So we can beat the sunshine law on that. All right, what I'd like to do and set some parameters here is anyone that's speaking today, and I know the mayor, if you guys would like to come up to the front tables, I think it would be a little bit more cozy and instead of the dais. So I know the mayor's here. I think is Chris Platt here? Alex? I think we got enough. I see Walker Wilson. I'm probably missing a few people. Greg Harris is back there. Feel free to come up. And what I intend on doing, Ray asked if he could go first, just because he has to catch a plane, I think, is what you shared with me. So we'll do that. But what the intent of this meeting is, and I'll just go back to kind of my Navy days, this is kind of where we have an informational brief of what everyone would intent is, what they would kind of like. I agree with Commissioner Berry, until we get the ASM study back that kind of gives us some right and left limits. This is where we're in the decision space area where we try to get as much information from everyone to make sure that we're heading down the right track. So I'm looking forward to the discussion today. There's no 3-minute clock. I just ask everyone to be respectful and reasonable, and that we have as much good dialogue this morning as we can. So please come on up. Don't be scared, and we'll start from there. Ray, you're on the docket.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, there's probably no one here that probably has authority other than the mayor to kind of make a commitment, but I think that as we're moving forward, I mean, in terms of, you know, the sports center and the Bay Center, it doesn't happen unless you have school board money, you don't have the universities at the table, you don't have the state colleges. So is that a part of the discussion today, or are we just like all information? or are we looking for commitments from these entities? Rather, I mean,
We
I
can't
know-
have a commitment at a Cal. It's not a vote. It's just, we can't do that, right?
Well, we can't vote
Councilman?
on it, but we could kind of see where they are, if they have a
Sure.
commitment or.
Absolutely.
You know,
So, I mean, I think if anyone wants to commit anything, we'll accept it,
Okay.
but we can't vote on it, you know, so.
I do see Deputy School Superintendent Sheena Payne here, and I would
Come on
at
up.
least invite her to the table in
Yes.
terms of the school board.
Come on up. I don't see where she's at. Oh.
Good.
Okay, well, if you feel like you want to make a comment later, just come on up to the dais. It'll be, okay, ma'am. All right,
I was going to get you a part of this DEI at this table. You could have really fit in.
All right, well, Commissioner May, if this was your Cal, so if it's okay, can we let Ray start? Okay, Ray, go ahead with your comments.
Thank you. Good morning. Ray Palmer, President of Pensacola Sports. I wasn't invited to the table, obviously. You wouldn't see me dressed like this. But actually, I am getting ready to get on a plane. You wouldn't know me if I put a coat on and tie, especially anyway. Nobody even know who the hell I was. I actually was not planning to be here because I'm supposed to be on a plane headed to a major sporting event in Tampa this weekend as the country comes to our state and celebrates another major event in the Women's Final Four. In addition to the Women's Final Four, the National Trade Association that we're lucky to be a member of, Sports Events Tourism Association, is also hosting hundreds of women for our Women's Summit, as well as what is functioning as my national, or my last official role as a board member of the National Association of Sports Events and Tourism. I actually wasn't, again, invited. I don't see anybody from tourism at the table, which I'm disappointed that tourism is not represented at this table because we're going to talk about a very important subject, and that is the Bay Center. I will remind you that Florida leads the country in sports tourism, $59.3 billion industry. Florida is the #1 state in tourism through sports tourism. And so we need to be a part of that initiative. And it's been quite an honor for me to represent our community for the last decade on the executive committee and the board of directors. And I was actually honored to be the president or chairman of the board of our National Trade Association of over 650 sports tourism professionals in across the country. And I'm wrapping up my term there. Let me give you a little quick background. And I'm going to do my best to be brief, be brilliant, and then be gone. Pensacola Sports was founded in 1955 and is the oldest or second oldest continual sports organization of its kind in the entire country. And it's been my honor to lead this organization since March 2nd, 2002, nearly 25 years. I've had the opportunity to welcome sports organizations and athletes to the Western Gate to the Sunshine State, where thousands live and play the way millions wish they could. My passion for the value of sports runs equally deep as my passion for this community. I am a native Pensacolian. My mother and father were high school sweethearts. Both of them were born in our city. They raised me and my 3 siblings here, who all my siblings currently still live here. I'm looking for something beyond what we currently have at the Pensacola Bay Center. Our community, the oldest community in America, deserves a first-class building. We are the official sports tourism bureau of Escambia County. We provide major economic impacts to our community, but not only our local businesses, but also our local citizenry. Our annual Double Bridge Run, High School All-Star Series, 50 years of Racket Roundup, and so much more helps improve our quality of life, opportunities for virtually all who care to participate. Now for a little meat. Our community has been beating around the Bay Center for more than any of us care to acknowledge. It's time to make the commitment to the upgrades necessary to bring our facility up to the standards we deserve. We are America's first city. We have glitter and cheer. I'm sorry. I should have never written it. 4 o'clock in the morning, this is what happens when you do it. We are America's first city. We have so much going on at the Bay Center. We just finished the Sunbelt Conference, and I'm happy to announce that today a press release will come out, and it will report the growth, significant growth of the success of the Sunbelt Conference this year. I think you've got cheerleading going on today, so our community will be, this weekend, you will have more cheerleaders and little glitter and dance stuff, spreading glitter all over our county. But it's more than just sports tourism. It's the opportunity for my 3-year-old granddaughter to go see Disney characters on ice and on skates without me having to drive 8 hours and commit thousands of dollars. It's a chance to go watch the Ice Flyers fight it out on the ice, and then watch the Wiener Dogs fight it out on the ice. And if you've never been to a Wiener Dog race, it is one of the funniest things and most it's fantastic. It's a chance for the Fiesta to celebrate our not-so-smart weatherman founder, Don Tristan DeLuna, who was a pretty good conquistador, but wasn't a very good weatherman. But he founded us first, and we are America's first city, first European settlement. It's my Rotary Club. It is a chance to see White Tie Rock Ensemble. If you've never seen them, I encourage you to go. It's time for us to put the money into this, but we can't do it on the backs only of tourism. We have got to go find other sources of funds to give our community what they deserve. And I will close in saying that Pensacola Sports is here 70 years. We are here to serve in any capacity in which you choose for us to serve. We are happy to sit on a task force, provide data, provide information, provide resources, whatever we can do to move this opportunity, which I sense has the best chance that it's ever had, forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Palmer?
Mr. Chairman, Ray, with our current facility, is there anything that prohibits you from bringing in like basketball and volleyball tournaments, or is that venue just not a venue that can make that happen?
The venue, the Bay Center as it stands is not the type of, I mean, you can bring a Sunbelt, but you can't bring a 40-team, 60-team basketball, volleyball event. You need multiple courts. The venue serves its purpose as an arena extremely well, and especially if it were upgraded. We're actually submitting a bid today to USA Weightlifting, for an example, for 2006 and 7. 2006 and 7, 1,200 athletes. It starts today in Oklahoma City. 1,200 athletes from collegiate colleges all over the country. They're competing in Oklahoma City in their Oklahoma City Convention Center, multi-purpose flex floor. We can't host that. And trust me, those kids don't want to be in Oklahoma City. They want to be on that beach. We know that. That's why we are, I can get away with dressing like this, because this is what Pensacola is. We are our beach. We're our relaxed, welcoming community of the South. So yes, there are very much restrictions in the Bay Center in its capacity, but there are also opportunities. We got a bid opportunity yesterday for trampoline and tumbling that requires the 30-foot roof. We think we can maybe squeeze that in, and it's a large number of opportunities. I'm going to Tulsa in 2 weeks for a national conference. I have about 30 one-on-one conferences already set up. I'm going to a venue facility summit the first day I'm going to be there, but I also have about 30 one-on-one meetings to specifically talk to national governing bodies, rights holders, and the organizations that can bring this type of business to our community and confirm what it is they need for us to build for them to come, because they want to come.
So is it fair to say that if we're going to enhance sports tourism, we would need a second facility such as what they have in Foley or what they have in Hoover?
Yeah, when every facility study we've done, Commissioner, has said the Bay Center is the Bay Center for an arena. If you're talking about being in the game of sports tourism, youth sports tourism, we were always woefully short in the large indoor venue, multi-purpose venue.
And I guess just for the edification of maybe my colleagues, because obviously I serve on PSA board. I'm a big supporter of sports tourism. I mean, it's kind of what I do. In the terms of attracting visitors, I mean, where's sports tourism? I mean, in the gamut. I mean, it's a huge draw in my opinion, but I mean, we have data to support that, I would think.
Oh, 100%. I think we had 45,000, I'm looking at you, room nights last year. Last year alone, approximately 45. And that's with no indoor arena. If you go over to Foley and see what their numbers are just with that, take out their soccer fields and stuff and their outdoor venues just in their indoor arena, the numbers are huge. And that's why everybody in the country is trying to build it. And everybody says, oh, well, be careful, don't overbuild. Absolutely, we need to be careful. But in our market, they want to come here. They don't want to go to Oklahoma. They don't want to go to Oklahoma City. They want to come to Pensacola, Florida. We've heard that for all of my 25 years. Build it, Ray. We'd love to come.
Thanks, Ray. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks. Does any of the speakers have any questions or comments? We'll kind of do this in that round. If you don't, we'll move on. Okay, thanks, Ray. I appreciate you coming down and sharing your thoughts with us this morning.
Thank y'all.
I'm going to go through the list as I have it here, and I also see Councilwoman Patton and Councilman Bear. You're more than welcome to come up, but we're going to start with the mayor, if that's okay. So, DC, if you'd like, however you want to do it, it's your call. But you folks are welcome to come up as well if you want to. I don't know if you're just here to listen to the comments.
All right, thank you, Chair Kohler, Commissioners. Thank you for starting this collective conversation about taking action at the Bay Center and the surrounding area. We all know how important this is, and certainly I'm appreciative on the efforts, especially lately, to really get this moving. This intentionality is important, and I think it puts us in a great position to have a huge impact in Escambia County. I'm here today to share our city's position on both short-term and long-term action steps and how the city hopes to collaborate with you all to move this project forward. I'll start with the area where I believe we all as elected leaders and the community as a whole most agree, the much-needed renovation of the existing Bay Center facility. As I've mentioned in public many times, while unanimity is rare among citizens and elected officials, I've never received an email or been stopped on a street corner with anyone saying how modern and aesthetically pleasing the current Bay Center is. I hope that this conversation today can begin with this common ground, defining the level of renovation of the Bay Center itself that's necessary for our city and for our county to have a facility it can be proud of. The second part is about a potential second facility. I know there's conversation in this study around many things, around many things. A sports facility, ice rink, conference center, and we've even thrown in outdoor soccer and football into the mix recently. Every option has its merit and case to make, but these ideas have been splintered throughout the past decade, generated, evaluated, and studied independently and with little context. They've been studied or proposed without a specific source of funding, a dollar amount, or even a specific location. And because of the intermittent timeline of when they were studied, they have not been compared to one another comprehensively or apples to apples. The options provided within this study were around specific parameters given to populace, but they are missing three things I believe are vital to all of our direction. First, what do the city and county residents in the surrounding community want? Two, what is the best way to leverage the existing footprint and the surrounding areas to make sure that this new investment maximizes its potential? And 3, how do we take independent wishes for specific facilities and compare them to make the most sound investment for the taxpayer? I personally don't consider this a misstep by anyone at all. I think it's just the natural progression of floating ideas over a decade of time that have been siloed without the important step that I believe we're taking today and the important question we're asking today. What is the best step to take with a generational investment? That's why I think this collaborative moment is vital to our collective success. It allows us, both city and county, to tie together years of work, deferred maintenance, conversation, and sound research. I'm not coming here today just to bring problems, but in the spirit of this intentional conversation, I do believe the city has an obligation to contribute. First, we have our own work happening at the city around the Grand Hotel. We have already committed our CRA to working closely with current owners and interested parties in the renovation or overhaul and potential incentives. That is something the city will take on to ensure that this property becomes a key contributor to whatever happens here, because its future is key to the success of any community investment. Second, I propose that the city step up at our expense, but with your direct input, to tie all of this work and these discussions together with a district development master plan, something that doesn't just focus on requested venues, but on the immediate surrounding area, around community engagement, around connectivity, urban design, traffic impacts, and more. A development master plan would include digesting every previous study of the Bay Center and proposed facilities over years of time to provide data-driven economic analyses of each type of proposed venue and give recommendations on what works for our community, our citizens, and gives our taxpayers the best return on investment. In addition, they would work concurrently with ASM study, it focused on the best case uses of the arena itself and surrounding area. Now, I'm aware of the analysis fatigue that you have, and we all have, and these citizens have, and I couldn't agree more. But we've come this far, and we're talking about $100 million that we need to get right. Putting a collective bow on this together with a comprehensive plan is important to our city. Also important, I would commit that if we work together on this, we would have this final concept master plan completed this fall. If you agree to this, and again, at no cost to the county, I would invite the BOCC, county staff, all partners you see here, my administration, and our city council to have a joint meeting in City Hall in the next 30 to 45 days. My goal would be to have the master plan development firm secured and that you are all at the table to share thoughts, priorities, and concerns from the beginning as this plan takes shape. I want to reiterate my appreciation for getting this ball moving. The proposal I just made hasn't been possible until now, and I'm grateful for this progress. I don't know what will happen from here, but what I do know is that this area will define this city and county for generations to come. It will be a standing reminder in success or failure of how we led our citizens. I believe how we work together can be the determinant of which way this redevelopment goes. Again, I want to thank you for getting us all together today, and I very much look forward to joining you in this important conversation. I'll be here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Any questions from the board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for being here, and do appreciate the time that we spent together on yesterday. Warren, you mentioned that your CRA, is it in your intent for CRA dollars to be put in the area around the Bay Center?
Well, certainly what we focused on, we tried to take on the things that we can control. The Grand Hotel is within the CRA. We've met with ownership over months and years of time. Since we've had that conversation publicly, we've certainly seen an uptick in people interested. And we know it doesn't matter whether if it's 40 million or 60 million or 80 million in the Bay Center, if it's a second facility, we know that the health and vibrancy of that facility, the historic train station, the hotel, or whatever would go there, is going to play an enormous role in this success. And I think it's kind of a microcosm of what I'm proposing is we should really be we got one facility and a conversation about a second facility. If we're doing this right, we're really looking at the entire area, to the south, to the north, to the east, to make sure that this redevelopment happens. And that's what a redevelopment master plan will do. I also think it's, secondly, it's very important for the taxpayer and to protect the taxpayer because there is no rule that says that, let's say we consider whatever the second facility, if that's something you guys decide you want to do, there's no rule that says that has to be 100% publicly funded. There are dozens and dozens of examples around this country where the public-private partnership comes in and builds a conference center, a sports facility, a stadium, whatever the case may be. But it's going to be very difficult to procure that type of interest on the private side without some document that says hey, we're all rowing in this direction. And so again, even the ASM study now, I'm in no way am I saying that doesn't provide value, but I don't know that it's the overarching vision for the area more than it is this facility, this level of renovation versus something else. That's why I bring begrudgingly the idea of another collaborative study, because I do truly believe we could put a bow on all 10 years, or heck, maybe longer, of work that's been put together. And part of what the work that this scope would include would be digesting every single one of those plans, so we all know that that's been considered.
So how do we take Mike Capp's group and your group and collaboratively work together on this study to make sure there's no duplication of any analysis or data collection? I mean, just at the back end to save.
In the research that we've done on this already, it's very common that the master plan developments are working in tandem with the existing facility and the operator, right? Because they're going to have a lot of insight as it pertains to getting it right and what level of renovation. So these are not, I don't see them as conflicting. Certainly, I don't want to speak for Mike, but I don't look at these as conflicting studies. I think that these not only can be run concurrently, but could be worked on together, is the way I would vision it.
And not to put you on the spot at all, but do you anticipate, a representative, whether it's our chair or whether it's our administrator or whether it's some of these stakeholders participating in the selection of the master developer and participating in the goals, objectives, and those type of things, and getting the study?
I'd entertain, if this is a direction that we want to go, I'd entertain any of those requests. At the end of the day, what I want is, regardless of who it is, that everybody's there from day one. So it's not, this isn't a city, because I don't want to fall back kind of in the same unintentional trap that we've fallen in, which is one organization's getting one study that says we should do this, and then one organization. So the last thing I want to do is have a independent city study of which you feel questions weren't asked or you didn't have a seat at the table. That's why I say I really feel like this meeting and this conversation is the catalyst for us to try to get this thing in for a landing and be able to do it with some of these other things that haven't taken place, the community engagement aspect, the traffic study, what happens on the rest of the development. And if we study that well enough, I feel like that gives all of us lots of leverage in terms of dollars, and saying, going out to the private market and saying, hey, this is what we want. We may not need to use only taxpayer dollars to build these facilities if we could do it.
And DC, the only reason I ask that is, and I think Stephen and I have been here the longest, I know there's been at least 2 studies of the Bay Center since I've been elected, which falls.
I would have thought it was more, to be honest with you.
It could have been, yeah, probably more before we got here.
Yeah.
But it falls on a shelf that collects dust, and the moment you get a new set of colleagues, and then we do another study, another study, another study. And I'm just hoping that, we can come together with all of the studies using the past data for implementation and go ahead and bite the bullet. And the bottom line of the bullet is, where's the money?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really what it is. I mean, so
Yeah.
I just hope that we're all, on the same page.
Well,
and we
I
can
agree
be a
with
part
you.
of it.
I agree with you. We hear that all the time about studies collecting dust, and I think the obligation is on us as elected leaders to be the implementers. You use that word, I agree with that. I think at the end of the day, the difference between collecting dust and not collecting dust, is just making sure that we take accountability for implementation. And I'm not saying we didn't try to implement former studies. I just think it's been a splintered conversation, more splintered than it is, and I would say this is the least splintered it's been in terms of what are everybody's priorities? What does the city want? What does the county want? What does Pensacola Sports want? I think to be able to move this, I think we have a golden opportunity right now to say whatever comes of the ASM study and a master redevelopment plan for the entire area, we're all in alignment. We're rowing in the same direction. And then now, I think that sends a pretty good message to the taxpayer and to the private market that could help us get this done.
Mr. Berry?
Thank you. And I'm certainly open-minded to that, especially if you're talking about incorporating other, a little bit larger footprint into what you're looking at doing. And we have had some, historically, we've had, a little bit of issues with master plans that were, that were paid for by, another entity, and then our board, having an expectation that we would be bound by that. And in this case, hopefully there will be other funding partners, public and private, but even with other funding partners, I think the majority of the funding is still going to come through the debt placement of this board, or maybe not the majority, but a large portion of
Right.
funding is going to come through a debt placement of this board. And I just don't want there to be an interpretation or an expectation that we're going to be bound by the feedback from a study that, regardless of what it says. I mean, they're advisory and they're, and that's great, but, if the study says the county should do X, Y, and Z, I don't want that to come with an expectation that that's going to bind our board to do X, Y, and Z. I mean, we're still, for our part of it, we're still, the majority of us, at least 3 of 5 up here, are going to make the decision about what happens, so that it's not thinking that another entity is going to make a decision that then just comes to us to rubber stamp. That I don't think that's going to happen.
Thank you, Chairman Berry. Mayor, I have 2 questions, and I think has the city started this study yet, or is it, so this is kind of, okay, so
Yeah.
what is your timeline to move forward?
Obviously, we've done our research in terms of what the timeline would look like, what we think a general scope would look like, but no, we have.
And I'm not opposed. I like parallel opinions. I think
Yeah.
they're good. The second question, which I think we've talked about this in the past, but I do think it's very pivotal to the outcome of the area, is the Grand Hotel and the Tech Park.
Yeah.
And I know you highlighted the city's doing some stuff with the Grand. Is there anything that you can give in detail?
Not really, other than just that we're having conversations, and we're certainly encouraged that we've seen a ramp up of conversations when we've announced
Okay.
that publicly. But I just, again, say not, here's how we think the city should do it. The city should be not only a collaborator with you, but an active participant in. And I wouldn't say that I expect that the city's participation long-term is limited to what I've just said either. I couldn't predict what it would be, but who knows? Listen, I think if any of us were to go build an office building somewhere, we're going to look at, is there enough parking? Is there enough? We're going to look at the surrounding area before we would just blindly go invest in something. And I think we have the one opportunity to do it. And to Commissioner Berry's point, listen, I agree. I promise I don't want to put my name on a plan that goes nowhere, and it is not supposed to be, binding, or that's not my expectation. But what I can tell you now is we've never had a study where there's been cohesive, complete alignment from the beginning. And again, as I said in my statement, that's not anybody's fault. I just think we haven't been in this place like we are right now. And so what I would hope is that we just actively involve, that the commissioners and county staff are actively involved from the beginning, which is really why I'm proposing it that way, is to say, well, then let's just have a conversation from day one to make sure concerns or priorities. I certainly don't think, I try to know what I know and know what I don't know, and certainly I don't want to opine on what the best redevelopment is. I like, I think, again, there's merit to all these ideas of the second facility being discussed, but I'm no economic expert in that field. I'm not a master plan developer, but I do think the more alignment we have from day one in saying this is what we want, not only for the Bay Center, but for the surrounding area, not only is that good for the community, but I do truly believe now we have something tangible to help leverage those precious bond dollars that Commissioner Berry mentioned. Ensure it's going to be at the end of the day, it's going to be an enormous investment in the decision that you guys are making. But I do believe that having that document, that we're going to the market and saying, our governments are in agreement, our citizens are in agreement, this is the direction that we want to go, and what can you do for us to help lower the taxpayer burden, I think is something valuable that if we don't do this, we won't necessarily have.
So you're committed to doing that, is
Yes.
what I'm hearing. Okay. I have no other questions. Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor, so what do you anticipate finding from this study? And Steve, maybe you can help me. We had the populist study, and then what's the first study? Jose, were we able to get those studies?
Crossroads is
Crossroads,
is
yeah.
one of the studies.
Yeah, Crossroad, populist, and what's the other study? Wes, do you know the other study we had?
I don't know.
I know we had Crossroad, I know we had populist. Do you remember the other one? It's the third one.
Ray would have probably
He's had
been the
some
best.
others, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Ray would probably be the best person. I already walked out the room. I know he would remember him a little bit better, but.
Yeah, I know we've spent a significant amount of money on study. Yeah, I guess, DC, Mr. Mayor, as we lay these out, what would you expect to get different from what ASM has done, Populous, Crossroads. I mean, what's different in this study?
Yeah, so I have seen, I think I've seen, all. I may have missed one, but I think I've seen most of these studies or all of them. I mentioned this earlier. I think there's a few important points. One is I'm not sure that the scope for any of these has ever been any part of community engagement, any part of connectivity in and around the area, about traffic flows, about how can we as the stewards of the taxpayer dollar best leverage and compound the money on the surrounding property. And so again, that's why I say I don't think it's the fault of anyone who paid for a study to this point or conducted a study for this point. I don't think is a wrong thing or a misstep or in any way. I just think we've all tried to do our best to try to move this forward, but what I think it's ultimately led to is we've had, to Commissioner Berry's point, splintered conversations. If Pensacola Sports does a study and says, hey, it shows that we need a multi-use sports facility. Well, if that was done in 2018 and the price was $40 million, what do you think it is now? It might be 60 million or 80 million, I don't know. And so it's trying to bring all of this together, and that's why I think an important part of this scope would be the requirement that anybody who would conduct this study would be digesting all of that. We did the same thing with our 10-year strategic plan in the city. Their first work was to read every single port study, all these things that the city had done before, so we knew that moving forward, all of the valuable information taken out of all of those studies would be considered.
And Mr. Mayor, and I agree with you, and I've said this throughout each of the studies, and why I think it's important to have community engagement. It is a tourist attraction, but it is, other than Pensacola Beach, I mean, it's the largest park and the largest public venue for our citizens. And so, as much as we're going to attract citizens, I mean, from graduations to Pensacola State, to UWF, to every high school, to, events, that attract locals. I mean, I think that the local citizens should have an input, and we should not only have consideration to bring in tourist dollars, but also how do we build a better quality of life for the residents that live here.
Well, and Commissioner May, if I may, I feel like think about all of the, regardless of the decisions that your board makes on a second facility, how much into the Bay Center, all of that, irrelevant of that. What we know is think about just all of the partners involved in this, right now. And without a cohesive master plan for the entire area, I think would prove even more difficult, which would be, we've got FDOT, we've got Florida West and PEDC, we've got the city, we've got the county, we've got a private property owner at the Grand Hotel, we've got the CRA. So regardless of the decision that's made, all of those entities are going to be at some point in the process directly involved in whatever decision is made. And so I just find it easier on the front end if all of us are at the table and we can all get into the general same direction. I just feel like that saves us a lot of legwork and logistical work and potential dysfunction down the road when we were trying to move through a project if everybody's kind of here at the beginning and saying it. And that's, again, why I'm so appreciative of y'all starting this conversation now, because I think it gives us that opportunity.
Yeah, very much needed. And then I'll end with this, Mr. Chairman. I think that whatever entities that have input, I mean, input's no good unless you put up some money.
Right.
I mean, so I think that everybody at the table have skin in the game, some type of equity. I mean,
Yeah.
whether it's, our private side, whether it's our public side, whether it's our tourism, whether it's our school board, our universities, our colleges. I mean, if you're going to be at the table to benefit the end users, which are the constituents that you serve, I mean, people have to be willing to be able to put some money up at the end, because as I think what Commissioner Berry is alluding to, I mean, we can't be the Bank of Escambia where we fund everybody else's ideas. I mean, it has to be a shared equity in how we do it.
And to that point, I feel like that is exactly why collaboration today with all of those partners makes that conversation a lot easier. And I do come before you expecting that as this process moves, the city should be an investor. I don't know in which way. We'll let the conversation go. But does a parking garage need to go somewhere because of a second facility? I could speculate 5 different ways, but I do philosophically come in, and I can't speak for our council members at the end of the day. Obviously, they approve budget, but I can safely speculate that our council members are intentional and adamant about seeing action the way that you guys are. I can certainly say that. I can't speak to what they would decide, but I do feel that the city has an obligation as well as hopefully an opportunity to be part of the overall discussion.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffer, do you have a
Yes.
question or comment?
Thank you, and thank you for the proposal and the idea and being willing to finance that. We recognize that and appreciate that. Just for clarification, the idea behind a master plan would be to take all of the studies that we've done in the past, all of the ideas, the puzzle pieces, the property that we have, and really put together the best way to use that in the most economical way to get there? Is that the goal of the master plan?
Correct. It looks at, and that's why, that's a perfect example of why the ASM study works concurrently. This master plan vision and development would not say how many seats needs to go in the Bay Center. Now, it may give some economic analysis, but the technical aspects of the renovation of the Bay Center, all of that, certainly you have experts that run arenas all over. That's not to the level of detail within that. It's more of where do all of these puzzle pieces fit, and should it be a conference center or a sports facility or a soccer stadium or whatever the case. Let that play out with data behind it, saying this is what this types of market support. And that's why I said we've done a study 1 year about a sports facility and 1 year about a conference center, and those were all good at their time. But if we're not doing them concurrently or together, then all the numbers are going to be drastically different than even 5-6 years ago. So yes, it's trying to put all of these pieces together, all of these former studies, and put everybody at the table that is going to have a direct vested interest in this. And if the end output, I don't expect that the end output is going to be, I 100% agree with everything personally. But as we always say, when you have no plan, everything fits it. So let's get a plan together that we generally feel good about. And then as decisions come to you on bonding money, obviously, that's going to be up to you guys. But that would be my hope.
Awesome, thank you. And just from a business standpoint, I would imagine if we had something visual to show people who are looking at purchasing the hotel across the street, that hotel
Correct.
would move a lot quicker. Because I know it's an eyesore every time I drive by, and you probably feel the same way. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hopper, and thank you, Commissioner Mayor Reeves. I appreciate your comments and ideas today. Does anyone on the board over have anything? Okay, then if not, I'll move forward to the next speaker.
Thank you, guys.
Councilwoman Patton, you were on the list. I don't know if you want to make a comment, but I'm trying to be inclusive. If you want to, you've signed up, or at least I think you did.
Thank you. Hopefully, there's one more seat at that table, and I can provide a little DEI, not much, but a little bit. So, good morning, County Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. Obviously, this project is near and dear to my heart, as it is in pretty much the heart of District 6, which I represent. It's interesting. I've had this many conversations with the mayor about the Bay Center and what I hope to see there, or what he hopes to see there, although I have heard his public comments. I'm going to go through my prepared remarks today just because I want to make sure I make my points, but you will see that we are very aligned on most of these ideas. So it's been 40 years since the Bay Center was built, and whatever we do now, whatever happens now, will likely serve the community for at least 40 years more. So it's a very, very important endeavor. I don't think I really need to say this, but I will just to make the point. And I believe that the meaningful collaboration that we're working on right now is absolutely critical to getting this right for our community. I appreciate the opportunity today to provide input individually, but I also, like the mayor, am asking us to get together, asking the county commissioners to participate in a joint meeting where we can more fully discuss some of these ideas that we're talking about today, and really talk about what we want as a community for this property. I can't emphasize enough, and my hope has always been, since I've been elected to sit in this chair, is that we become more collaborative, not only as a city council, but as governing bodies, and the mayor, but as governing bodies of this very, this wonderful community. I strongly believe that the city residents and county residents want us to be collaborative. I've heard that over and over and over again, and I think they deserve that. I would also like to discuss Next steps. It's my strong view that we need to take a holistic approach, as the mayor discussed, surrounding the Bay Center as we make decisions on how to invest taxpayers' dollars. Anything less would be a disservice to our community. Our approach should take into account all assets that we can leverage to serve all of the needs of the multiple interests. We may not be able to get to where everyone is happy with what the outcome is, but I think there really is an opportunity here to really serve a lot of the interests that you're going to hear from today. As we move forward, there are some questions that we need to ask ourselves, our consultants, and I think most importantly, as we just discussed, our community. What types of events do we want to see at the Bay Center? And, you know, we've talked a little bit about sports, and I think that's very important. We've talked about ice hockey and ice events, and that's great. I've heard a lot about, you know, why can't we bring any concerts to our community, and, you know, other types of uses for that facility. So it would seem to me very important that we do community outreach and get the feedback on what our residents want to see in the Bay Center. And then do the upgrades, do the you know, this plan that we're putting together, that ASM is helping ASM is helping us put together, do the upgrades support that vision? What kinds of development at this property and the surrounding areas will drive the economic activity as well as serve the needs of the community? Do we need a separate facility? And what should that facility look like? What needs should it serve? The tech park is well positioned to create jobs and support innovative industry. How can we best position this asset to work as together with the Bay Center property? And what development there will provide the greatest economic impact? I also sit on the PEDC, which controls the tech park property, but it's county and city owned. And so it's really important, I think, that as we talk about bringing in different tenants to that property, how that might, the development of that property can work together with the Bay Center. What amenities are we missing in our county, and which of those needs are best served here? And although the grant is privately owned, how can we incentivize and support productive development? And I know the mayor is working on that, and I think that is a critical part of this. And then how can we connect this area to the rest of our downtown community, Palafox? And that's where that holistic view is really critical. And most importantly, I would say, how can the city, county, and private sector work together to accomplish these objectives as efficiently and as effectively as possible? And I think that's where a lot of this master planning comes in. The county has asked ASM to take a view focused solely on the Bay Center property and provide various options for consideration, and I understand why you've made that request. And while I definitely appreciate the fact that ASM is willing to fund such a visioning process, you know, there's a few potential pitfalls with this approach. I mean, at the end of the day, the commissioning entity has a great deal of control over the outcome of any study. And I guess today, I would just urge the county to really, I know you're involved in that process, but we need to, again, going back to my earlier comments, figure out what our community wants there, and then really help direct that study that they're doing to be able to provide us with real input on what is possible there, given the needs and desires of our community. And that may be being done, but I just want to stand here today and ask, from my perspective, that, you know, that is part of that process. And I also hope that there will be consideration given to synergies with surrounding assets like the tech park. The mayor has indicated he wants to hire a visioning firm to provide us with a holistic plan, and for the reasons I stated and we heard from him, I support that, that idea. And I think it would help us answer questions like, I saw one of the plans that had previously been done showing retail, for example, in an area of the Bay Center property. But could that proposed retail supporting some meeting space or sports activities at the Bay Center be accommodated in part by developing the first floor retail space at a commercial building or multiple commercial buildings across the street at the tech park? How can those things work together to maximize the use of the property? And then I think we talked about this a minute ago, but what if shared parking can serve both the Bay Center or new meeting sports complex and new jobs at the tech park? So what could that look like? And then can other city assets like Portside Pickle, which is a lease building but still owned by the city, can we figure out how maybe some of the sports needs might be met there and how we might be able to accommodate that? So I think all of these things, it's not easy to put all this together. I think that's why talking about this together and a master plan, a larger vision, is really important. It's also imperative, I think, and this kind of goes back to what you just discussed with the mayor, that any studies done are not done in isolation, and that we don't have competing city and county studies that then lead to division rather than unity. I think that's incredibly important, and I love the idea of really trying to work together from the beginning on that process. With this in mind, I also would say I do not think we should be closed-minded. We should think big, with a holistic opportunity or a holistic picture of the opportunities. We can explore what is possible, and then we can see what we can actually do for our community. I think this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to create something incredibly impactful that will serve our citizens' entertainment, business, and sporting needs, while attracting outside investment in our downtown and greater Escambia County and spurring economic development. I have also gone out and educated myself on some of the projects in other cities, and there is no question that private development dollars are available for projects like this. They just need to see that the city, county are aligned, that they're not, political roadblocks to success for them, and know what we want, so they are able to figure out how they can plug in with their private dollars to be able to help us achieve our objectives. I'm hopeful that you will consider all the potential future needs, including space for meetings. I do think that's actually a really big need in our community, and a big opportunity. And I urge you all to be just thoughtful, collaborative, and visionary as you explore options and make decisions relating to this very important asset for our community. I don't speak for City Council. I speak for Allison Patton, who represents District 6 here today. But I will tell you that I am very much supportive of the city working together with the county and financially contributing to this. It always seems like we start out with, well, are you going to give us money? If you're not, we don't want to hear your thoughts. Let's put all that stuff aside and say, let's see what we can do, and then let's figure out how we might be able to fund it. And I am all in on those conversations, certainly from my vote. So with that, I'll close and say thank you for letting me present to you today.
Thank you, Councilwoman Patton, and I appreciate coming and sharing your comments with us today. Is there any questions from the board? Okay.
Thanks for coming, Councilman Patton.
You're welcome.
Thank you. In interest, I see Councilman Bears here. You don't, okay, I'm giving you the opportunity since you're in the room for City Council. Then we'll move on to the school board. Is anyone from the school board? Ms. Payne, do you want to make a comment? And you don't have to. You're on the list of folks that are here and Ms. Morgan, either one of you, it doesn't matter, or you don't have to. I don't want to put you on the spot if you don't feel like speaking.
Good morning. You don't ever give teachers a chance to talk and expect that they will not. First of all, good morning, and we are grateful to be in the place with you. I stand here with our Director of High Schools, Mrs. Lisa Morgan, and behind me, the people that you can't see are 36,219 students of Escambia County Schools. 2,206 of them will be graduating on the 24th and 25th of May. So we certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here and share with you. When I heard the Councilwoman say that the Bay Center had been there 40 years, I did a sigh of relief because I could not remember if I graduated in the Bay Center or not. And so as young as I am, I know you agree, by the way I look, as young as I am, I did graduate at the Bay Center. I couldn't remember, and so I'm grateful for that. We have had a great partnership with Mr. Capps over the years. I've had that partnership with him as an assistant principal, formerly trying to figure out what our setup needed to look like at the Bay Center, to a principal trying to figure out what our setup needed to look like at the Bay Center, and now seating and watching all of those 7 high schools participate. I've heard the things that you have discussed. I appreciate having an opportunity to come here today and be a voice for that, for those 36,000 kids and the 2,200 that continually, year after year, come across that stage, taking the biggest steps of their lives. They come across one way and they go down another, and life is different. And sometimes, those lives end up in rooms like this. There are 2 of them here that are graduates of a high school that I was blessed to be a part of and working in your organization. So yes, and all of you can remember, all of us can remember, if nothing else, it starts in a classroom. You remember your schools. If you're a Escambia County person, from A.K. Suter to Northview High School, they come down, Northview High School comes down now and participates at the Bay Center for graduation. And those are times of celebration. And we as a member, as a team, are grateful, and we're grateful for this conversation. We have contracts extended through Mr. Capps 2029. You agree? Okay. So we just want to make sure that you know two things. One, on behalf of our board and our district, our superintendent, Mr. Keith Leonard, and all of those that represent our teachers, our employees, all of those, our students that represent the Escambia County School District, we are grateful to be a part of this conversation. We'd like to stay in this conversation. And remember that whatever you do, our students, we hope, will be participating in some way, whether they're young coming up and attending some of the things from Disney to all of those other things that you've named, sporting events and the like. We had students that participated in the Sunbelt Conference and took field trips there, to anything. So they might be employees of the Bay Center and all of these other things. So we thank you for keeping us and our students in your mind as you make decisions. And as we can come to the table and help you, we certainly want to be able to do that. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. Remember that what you do, our students are there with you too. Whether you see them or not, they're there with you too. And so as you make those decisions, thank you again for allowing us to be a part of that.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions? It sounds like you're very happy with what the ASM's done for the school board over the years. Obviously, there's thousands of kids that have good memories, but is there anything specific that you would request be changed? I guess that's the only thing I didn't hear.
Well, if you give me a little bit more time, I probably can tell you
Oh,
more than you want to know. But yeah, there's always room to make things better. And we do that because we grow. It's like my grandmother used to say, live and learn, die and forget it all. So as we grow and we move further, there's always things that you've worked. Even yesterday, there are some things that worked for me this morning that are not going to work for me this afternoon. So to answer your question, with time, yes, we have been satisfied with some things. And there are probably things we could do maybe a little bit differently, knowing what we know now. So with more time, sir, I'm certain that we'll be prepared to make sure that we can share that with you.
Well, thank you. And the board appreciates you coming down and sharing your comments.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, ma'am. You good, ma'am? Are you okay? How do I follow her? All right, no problem. We'll go ahead to.
Sheena, Dr. Payne.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't. Yeah.
So what would it take for us to host, say, the high school state tournament basketball or volleyball? I mean, do we not have a venue for that, or what type of venue would it take for that, or could we host it at the Bay Center?
I think that there are a couple of things that you have to look at when you talk about state competitions, and you're probably going to know this more than I do athletically, but some of the first things that come to mind is how many teams are you having, what do they look like, and can you park them? Can you get them around the facility, actually be there? Sometimes, and I learned this, I'm going to use the example I have as being a high school principal. One of the things we always share with our students before graduation is they need to be there an hour and a half early. And they need to be there an hour and a half early so they can make sure there were no incidents about where they would park and where they could get to, because we have families and different people coming in from all over to participate with that. So I would imagine if you're having those kinds of things, it's not to suggest that it could not be done, but we'd have to be looking at a lot of other things, and some of which I think I've read and heard that you are discussing the possibilities of things like concessions. Where do people go for this, that, the other? So I think it is what you have said earlier. It's looking at what is done in other places and how they fit that, how they make that work. And if we were to mirror that here in Escambia County, what does it look like? So maybe if we didn't go straight to state finals, could we do semifinals? And some of that depends on location and teams anyway. Who's playing what where? And if you win, this is where you go. So I think it could be. We just have to look at some examples of what that looks like. Can we, when we get them there, can we put everybody that's going to want to participate, people that live here and people that don't live here that would come in for those type of events, and they will. Could we do what we see people do all the time in South Florida? There's a reason, I would imagine, why we always have to travel from this, and I can speak to that again as former principal. We always try to, everything that happens in Orlando. So how do we get that here so that people would come here and we don't always have to go there.
Yep. Thank you, Dr. Payne.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Okay. Dr. Stevenson, we'll just continue with school and universities. Do you have a comment you'd like to make?
I just want to say thank you all for having Pensacola State here.
Is that thing on? Maybe the
Okay, there
mic's
we
just
go. I'm
not
sorry.
close
This is my
enough.
first time doing this. So.
That's okay.
I'm John Stevenson, Associate Vice President of Student Affairs, Pensacola State. So thank you all for being here. I just want to say we, as Pensacola State, support the renovations of the Bay Center. Mr. Capps and his company has been great to work with. I am working on actually approaching my third year here. So I lived in Huntsville, Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, Alabama in my career. So I know the importance of having a first-class facility. This is important to Pensacola State. Yes, we're a higher education institution, but the events that we host or partner with the Bay Center in our area, it's impactful not only for our graduates, their families to have a first-class experience on these days, but it's also impactful for our community because we are providing individuals into our workforce 2 times a year. So I think we're willing, I know we are willing to strategize and collaborate with Mr. Capps, the city, the county on whatever we need to do to enhance our Bay Center for our community and our future of Pensacola. So thank you all.
I just have, now you do your graduations there. I know
That's
back in the
correct.
day you did them in the gym because I participated in that. How long have y'all been doing them at the Bay Center?
That answer I cannot give
Yeah,
you.
it's
I know
okay.
it's been several years.
20 years?
Over 20.
Okay, all right. And do you do one? Because I remember back in the day, you'd have 4 graduations, and you'd have to have 4 different commencement speakers. It was kind of interesting how you did it. So you only do one now at the Bay Center, right?
Yes, sir. We do one. And one hurdle that we have is the facility. We would love to have certain dates, but I know with West Florida, we try to partner with West Florida. They have 2 commencements, and I don't want to speak on behalf of West Florida, but they have 2 commencements ceremonies in one day, so they have to rent the Bay Center out the day before to be able to accommodate that one day when most facilities, if they were a first-class facility, they would be able to come in that morning and have everything. But we're a commencement ceremony, but we bring in a first-class sound and audio rig just as the concerts do. So it does take time, and having the top-notch facility and resources does help the process. So we do good right now when we load in at 7 o'clock for our commencement at 5 p.m. to be able to open the doors at 4 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions from the board?
Dr. Stevenson, thank you, and I appreciate that sound system, probably due largely to you. And I was a commencement speaker, and the speech was not good, but the sound was. So I mean, it helped me out. But congratulations to you and your dad. But I do think many of
you so
us
much,
are
Commissioner
alumni, and I think that it's important to have Pensacola State at the table. And thank you
Yes,
for
sir.
your leadership.
If I could,
And just as Dr. Payne said, we do have contracts through 29 with ASM and the Bay Center, so we do appreciate and value our partnership. And
Well,
Mr.
that's-
Capps is
that's-
great to work with, so
that's great news.
thank you.
Commissioner May, if I could get a copy of that speech, I'd appreciate it. Mr. Smith?
I know you want all of my speeches now, but now that it's going to turn blue, man, I'm gonna lend it to you.
Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm excited to be back here. I hoped with my new job I wouldn't be down here as much, but Commissioner May missed me, so he wanted me to come back. But thank you for, university is
Al.
excited to participate. As Dr. Stevenson said, we use it twice a year for commencement. I'm new, so I'm still learning. I think, Commissioner Berry's recommendation of having us sit down with the people doing the study to give some of the more operational things that we could do would be helpful, but agree with Dr. Stevenson. We do have to go down the day before to load in and set up stage, scaffolding, sound system, all of that. But Michael Capps and ASM has been a joy to work with. They do a great job. They accommodate us. They make sure we get everything that we need done. So, we just, another thing that the university has shown an interest in is some more conference space. Some of the colleges have requested to be able to host receptions after commencement for the individual colleges, and right now that's not something that we can currently do in the space, just using the floor for graduation and all of that. So additional space at the Bay Center for that would be something that the university would, appreciate, but understand we use it twice a year. So.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Okay, Commissioner May?
No, Alex, congratulations on leaving the city and doing higher things. But I do want to, when we talk about what really works with the Bay Center summer employment, Alex was a student who started out in our summer employment program. And at this point, to go to chief of staff of the city and to be, almost running a university, it makes a real testament of what that program does when we grow our own. So, I know the mayor, I wish he would have paid you more so you could have stayed, but we're glad that you're still here. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Congratulations on your new assignment. I just want to, is Mr. Platt, I don't see him, but I don't want to miss him. I don't think he's here. What was that, Allison? Okay, we'll pull him in at the end. Florida West, Chris Platt. So, Michael Capps, would you like to give any comments in brief? And then we'll go to Greg and then Walker, if that's okay.
Thank you, Commissioners, and thank you, Mayor, for being here. We look forward to the continued conversation. Obviously, we want to get this right. We have been working on this for quite some time. Myself was part of the Cinderella project that was brought forward in 2013. There have been quite a bit of studies. I think the approach for the concept of a master plan is needed at this point. I would concur with that assessment because we have been, as ASM managers, operators of the building, we've been focused on the building itself. We did the condition assessment with Populous. That came back and told us what the condition was of the facility, and it came back with a big price tag. But through the action of this board and the support of TDC, we put $10 million into it. That's currently in process. That's helping the short term to continue its operation. The next step is the renovations that we talked about. That was primarily focused on just the building. And then we had the conversation of additional space, what else could be done on the property that could help enhance, and that's where the flex event space came into picture. As that conversation kept going, we do need to take a look at what's going on around the surrounding area. Parking is going to be an issue, and parking will always be an issue no matter what. But I think that the bigger concern on the master plan is going to be the traffic. We talk about high school graduations and getting there an hour and a half early. Those are some of our most challenging days to get people in and out of the building because of the way we do 4 ceremonies a day. And you have a lot of people coming in from out of town that aren't used to the area, and so that wayfinding and traffic is something that we really need to take a look at. ASM has not been focused on that. Where ASM currently is we have some calls tomorrow talking to the different study groups to see who can come in and do the best job for the county. Okay. And we have our representative with Legends, who is overseeing the New Orleans Superdome project, that $550 million renovation. That project lead is now on our project and working with us. So you're having top-class talent working on this project. As we move forward, we always engage with as many people as we can. The previous studies were utilized with feedback that we had received from users of the building before. While we didn't have an open public session to receive comments or sit down and have individual meetings, we did reach out to our clients and users to find out what they wanted or what they would want out of the building, such as UWF, Pensacola Ice Flyers, and so forth. So that was brought into account as far as what the work has been done with Populous. We are going to continue that same effort and do that with the studies that we're doing now, is to engage, and really for us today is to find out direction from you, who all you want involved in that. So from a task force or a collective group representative, who do you want representing the county, the city, the tourism, Pensacola Sports, school district, all those entities, because I think it is most important that we have those at the table from day one as we get to this bigger scope. Right now, ASM is really refined on one scope, and it's really just the base center renovation and then adding the additional event space for 75,000 square feet. That is just very, very small. We need a more refined division of, or a description of where we want to go with that. And if it has changed, we would like to hear that.
Okay. Commissioner, may I have a question, but go ahead.
You go first.
Well, this is just going out there, but if the city's doing a study and you're doing a study, I would like, after they're done, to parallel them, just so we can, I don't know if we did that up front, if that's helpful. I don't know what your thoughts are on it, Mayor, but.
I think we can do it. To Michael's point, one study is the technical aspects of of coming to our community and saying, should it be a $40 million renovation, a $50 million, those things that have been discussed publicly. We're talking about the grand scheme of outside the building, which certainly would not be in their scope, right? Or their expertise, I think I could say. So there's no reason, if I were the one conducting the study that I'm proposing, if I was that firm, I think it would be a luxury to them to already have someone else working on the even greater detailed aspects of the building itself. I think that those combining would be a good thing for both, I would think.
But could it be a collective report together, Mr. Mayor? I mean,
I'd hesitate to say that until I talk to somebody who's an expert in that field. But I mean, I would imagine that they could be presented concurrently and certainly be in lockstep. I just would hate to say they definitely can or can't.
right, I mean, and I
Have the
guess,
same document, you know.
I guess to my point, I would hate to see, although you're just looking at bricks and mortars, expansions, renovations, Mr. Capps, and they're looking at the outside. I would hate to have conflicting interests in which, you know, we're not collaboratively together, particularly once it becomes a public document. And so I'm trying to see, how do we work it out, you know, to take the previous, you know, the precedent that we had with previous studies, include that with what you're doing, with what the mayor's doing, to have a document that has buy-in from the community, that we don't, you know, we don't have to be here debating this in perpetuity. So the quicker we can get to construction is what I'm
Well, and
trying to figure
ASM's
out.
not going to study outside of the
What-
proper, right?
Well, that's what I was about to ask. I'm sure ASM has done this in other places. Master planning is a pretty
We
widely
have.
accepted rule. What is your best practices, or what have you guys found works best?
Collaboration, obviously, and we're here to take your direction on that. And so they're talking about a master plan where the ASM on the Bay Center property is within that master plan. So it's one component of that larger
Right.
concept. So those can run concurrently. And then while they're running concurrently, they can be in collaboration. So, and it would be something where, you know, when we do this, we have weekly meetings. So as they're gathering their research, we're talking to additional stakeholders, getting additional input. We're gathering all this to feed it into the engine to spit out what it's going to spit out. It'd be done the same way with the master plan. So what we're finding, we would feed back to them. What they're finding, they would feed back to us. I believe that could run concurrently. I would tell you on a time frame, I know that was kind of thrown out there. For us, typically the market impact study is done before you get a design concept study. That's the two that we're doing. We're running those jointly. They can't run side by side, but there's a little bit of overlap. And so for each of those studies, you're looking at a 12 to 14 week time frame. So we're trying to get, instead of 12 weeks plus 12 weeks, we're trying to combine that to get that time frame down.
Wow, that's pretty good. All right, Commissioner.
Mr. Mayor, when will your study start?
Well, to your question earlier, you know, I think that's going to be the speed of which it starts is going to be if you guys are wanting or a representative of the BOCC is wanting to vet out alongside. I'm not against that, but obviously that's going to add time. And it really led to a bigger question since, you know, hearing Michael and some of your questions is, and this is, I guess, a question for county staff is, does it make sense to have some type of collaborative committee as opposed to all 5 of you, all 7 of the council? I don't mean that we couldn't reconvene on the bigger discussions, but just to, that would be my greatest fear, not that the county have any say in who the firm is, but if I'm going to tell you it's going to be done this fall, but it takes us 4 months to agree on, you know, who it's going to be,
No,
then
I
it's not
agree
going to
with
be
you,
done
just
this
one
fall, you
representative.
know?
I agree with
Yeah.
you. You wouldn't get it, you can't get it done with the commission and the city council and all
That's
that.
what I would worry
concur
about
with
by
that.
committing the
I
time.
agree with you. I
So
mean,
I would be open, and, you know, I can't speak for council. I know on the administration side, and I would be there personally to represent the administration, but some type of joint kind of blocking and tackling group that can get things moving. And then when there's big decisions to make, obviously, at the end of the day, the big decision's going to land with you guys, how you want to bond
Right.
these funds. So
I certainly concur with that, Mr. Chairman.
I do too. I think
I mean,
you
just
treat
one
it like
person.
it's a subcommittee and then
Yeah.
it comes up, so.
Yeah, it could be the chairman or whoever. I mean, it's in
Well,
the city.
the timeline, Mike, is pretty impressive. I like that, so that was good to hear. Commissioner Strohberger?
I think we're getting wrapped around the axle about this collaborative group. I think we're all going to do that. I think that's the one thing that we can agree on. We're all going to get together to discuss this. I see the value in studies, and the one that you're talking about, TC, Mayor Reeves, is one we definitely got to do. I mean, that's the first one we probably got to do, right? All the other stuff, I agree with Commissioner Berry. The studies can be a guide, but they're not going to be the plan. So we're still going to decide these things in this group. We'll decide these things, but I don't want to get too wrapped up in all these studies. They have, competing studies like you talked about, or Allison talked about. I'm more interested in what we can afford to actually do. What can we really afford to do? And so going back a couple of years ago, when I was working for Commissioner Kohler.
Best days of your life.
Oh, the worst days of my life. I don't remember how the topic came up, but it came up, the topic came up about military personnel not wanting to move to Escambia because there wasn't enough ice. And I was, come on, really? And I think Commissioner Kohler felt the same way. I've changed my mind on that. I've totally changed my mind on that. And the group that has come to, the community outreach is happening. It's happening. They've been in my office many times. There's a wait list to play in the adult hockey leagues. There's a huge group, and there's at least just one group that I know of for figure skating. And I think if we don't, it's been 40 years since we've done this. If it's going to be 40 more years, can we wait 40 more years to do a second sheet of ice? I don't think they can wait. I'm just curious about what you all feel about a second sheet of ice, really doing one. I know it's expensive, but I think it pays off. I know that Greg's got opinion on this. You want to say something, Greg?
He's up next.
Okay. All right, then I don't want to know what you have to say.
It's a good segue.
Yeah. I just think that I agree with Ray Palmer when he says that, I mean, did he say that Florida is #1 in sports tourism? We're in Florida. This is Florida. And I mean, it's bigger than California and bigger than Texas. That's enormous. And I think what we do here, and we've talked about this, but I'm not kidding. We need to do something grand. We need to do something, because other communities are doing it. I'm getting stuff from the hockey folks and the figure skating folks about what they're doing in Huntsville and other places. They're going to beat us to this. And we need to do something good here that is good for the whole community, that brings everybody here. This is where, like Ray said, people would rather come here than, say, go to, hey, I love Jacksonville, but they would rather come here than Jacksonville. I'd rather come here than go to Orlando. We're closer to everything. Everything's closer. There's a lot of reasons why you'd want to do everything here. And I just think I think we need to do the right thing, the best thing that we can possibly do. And I don't think we should I can't say that. We can't, yeah. We got to do a great thing here. We can't do anything haphazard. We got to do it great. So I know that we still have to figure out what we can afford to do, but I want to do it on the cheap. We can't do it on the cheap.
Thank you, Commissioner Stroberger. And if there's no further, Commissioner May, you have a comment? Oh, thanks.
You can do a second sheet of ice in the existing facility, or would a second sheet of ice be?
Yeah, they can do a second sheet of ice over there. Talking with Greg earlier, Mr. Harris, that second ice plant will support a second sheet of ice, and that's going to save us about $2 million just to have that there. So yeah, we can, as long as that second sheet of ice is close enough to the base center. It's got to be close enough so that it can be used for both.
Mayor Reeves?
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Commissioner Stroberger, to your point, I think that highlights the greater reason for collaboration. And I'll just use me as an example. I bet if the 4 of us here and the 5 of you had a piece of paper and ranked ice rink and soccer stadium, we'd all have different answers. And really at this point, I think we're only equipped with years-old studies and conjecture, really, at this point. And that's, again, to no one's fault. I'll just speak for me. I don't know. I may have an opinion right now that could be changed drastically based on the study that comes in. So I'll just use an example. If a conference center, say, was X dollars, but we realized in the private market that the private market would take on 80% of it based on this master plan, well, that's going to change my ranking. Because if it's $10 million of taxpayer money versus $40 million, that's a completely different set of facts that we need to have, I think, to make that decision. And so that's kind of the center point of my proposal, is to say, let's just get all the facts on the table. And to Commissioner Berry's point, at the end of the day, it's a guiding document, and you guys have an ultimate decision to make. But just making it from the best data-driven and community-driven position that we can make it, and then the chips fall where they may. But we don't have to rely on anecdotes, and we can rely more on that data. So.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, if there's no further comments, great. You good, Mike? Okay, Mr. Harris, if you'd come up. He presented a lot of data. I think everyone got it this morning on some of the metrics, so I don't know if you're going to go over those, but thank you.
Yes,
Greg.
yeah. No, thank you. Greg Harris, owner of the Pensacola Ice Flyers. Commissioners, thanks for having me here today, and obviously just where this conversation is to this point, it's truly encouraging and positive to be at the table in the same room with everybody here, just talking about, hey, what can we do to have this generational project that's going to absolutely transform our county, downtown, and in our community. We look at what over the years, throughout the studies, and do we tear it down, build up a new one? Do we change it? Do we renovate it? And I get asked, hey, what do you want? Is it just give me ice and seats to put butts in, and I'll make it work? There's that upgrade with the video board 5 years ago. Look what we did with it. Now this summer we're adding more renovations through that $10 million that was previously approved. It's kind of a just wait and see what we do with this now, with new lighting and new audio and all the theatrics that you can actually create within our game experience that will hopefully bring more people to the Bay Center and downtown. And so, yes, absolutely 100% on board with any and all renovations that could potentially happen at the Bay Center. I think it's not just for us. I'm a full circle and a two-way street type of guy. So whatever is going to benefit us is going to also benefit a lot of other entities that are going to be able to utilize the Bay Center for what it is and what its purpose is. With that multi-use facility. So I want to run through that second facility, whatever it is. Yes, there's different things that we can do, and obviously I'm going to be a proponent for ice. And the numbers that I've sent y'all, it really justifies a separate, dedicated, year-round ice sheet. Now, is that what everybody wants and needs? I don't know, but that is definitely can be supported by the numbers, because there's a lot of myths out there about ice, right? And maybe it's just because it's a very uncommon, and people aren't, for example, kids aren't growing up playing hockey or figure skating. Well, no kidding. There's one ice sheet for 6 months in an 8,000-seat arena that's utilized by a lot of other entities. So if there's one football field, are kids growing up playing football? No. If there's one basketball court, are kids growing up playing basketball? No. So that has to be taken into context as well. So with, and we talk about tourism, we talk about sports tourism, hockey's a sport. So where has that been? Figure skating is a sport. The sports tourism aspect of ice-related activities is incredible. And I've sent those numbers to you that I had Nicole at the Haas Center run after collecting some data from the Pelham Civic Complex that has 2 sheets. That's where one of our competitors, Birmingham Bulls, play out of. And then a second ice sheet called the Igloo in Jacksonville, Florida. So 2 relatively close with 2 ice sheets. And I'm talking to the Junior Ice Flyers, the Out Rec League, Figure Skating Club, just to kind of collect some data to send over here to run some basic numbers. And the crazy part that I've been learning is, this one tournament called the State of Play, where it's an elevated hotel rate at a predetermined hotel that you have to guarantee at least 20 room nights for 20 rooms for 3 nights. You have to guarantee that at an elevated rate. Someone that I talked to had a mother-in-law. They book a room for their mother-in-law, and it was, instead of $200, they only paid $120. So the rates are elevated, and this is happening all over the country. There is typically 30 teams in tournaments like that, and the numbers I had Nicole run, we're only at 16. And for one small weekend, the economic impact was like $407,000. So that was actually, I believe that the cost per family spend was maybe a little bit over $1,500. They typically spend over $2,000. So you add double the teams, you add an increased spend for the families within the community, you're probably looking at about $1 million economic impact just for that one weekend. Then you go over to figure skating. What I learned is there's a company called Ice Sports Industry, ISI, that runs a competition. They had 543 competitors over, I believe, a 4-day period, with everybody coming in, doing a tournament like that, because they're constantly looking for different markets to put their competitions in. That was $1.5 million economic impact for a figure skating competition. So the myth of just like, okay, well, Ice Sheet is just going to benefit the local kids. Well, yes, it is. Just like anything else is going to benefit local kids. But there's a greater scale to what that is, and I think that's just the misconception and the myth behind ice, right? So it's this. So we're looking at what we're doing. Back in 2017, we did an economic impact just for our $5 weekend for 2 games. And so when we extrapolate, and that was about $1 million just for that one weekend. Extrapolate out, you're looking at about 14 million with our 28 game schedule. Now we're at, we're guaranteeing 29 dates and potentially up to 30 days for the Bay Center. Back then, from 2017 to this past year, we've had an increase in attendance of 45.9%. So our economic impact can roughly be extrapolated out to $20 million to $25 million. So combining all those, because if there is that second ice sheet, along with the Bay Center, I'll definitely be 100% on board. Like, hey, what can we do to help free up some game day ice so they can bring in tournaments or competition, whatever it is. Like, it's going to be a collaborative effort for us, obviously. You look at the amount over the last 5 years of our lease that we've had that has been given back into the community through nonprofits working the games, through what we've donated through the Ice Flyers and the Ice Flyers Foundation. You're looking at a $2 million donation back to nonprofits into our communities over the last 5 years. For the 23-24 season, Ice Flyers and Ice Sports accounted for 43% of the net event income for the Bay Center. Nearly half of the net event income came because there is an ice sheet in there. And that's not even utilizing it, the entire 6.5 months, because obviously there's Sunbelt, Pensacon, Mardi Gras Balls, Pensacola State, UWF, Cheer, Disney on Ice, all this stuff, right? So the economic impact's there, the contributions to the community is there, and the direct revenue for ICE is there. So it's almost like a why not type of situation. Like what's everyone afraid of? And if it's something that they're not aware of, 100% come talk to me. I'll gladly sit down with anybody and just help educate, because what do I do? What's part of what I do without our games is educating people about hockey and ice. And so a lot of people don't understand it, but they're there for the activities. So if that is, so yes, 100% it could be justified to do a separate ice sheet. That is where I believe that, is that $26 million, Michael? Somewhere around there? Yeah, that would be for a dedicated separate ice sheet. Now, if there's a building that's already been designed for to help, Ray and Pensacola Sports host basketball and volleyball, adding that ice capability to it, there's going to be some additional costs, but not $26 million. So a part of that $10 million that TDC and the board has approved, that's going to go into the base center over the next few years here, it's everything ice related. So it's a new ice plant, new flooring, new pipes in the flooring, new boards, new glass. And that's at an estimated about $3.5 to $4 million. So then, again, add maybe something some aspects to the building that you would need to house ice in a building that can typically, it is also used for basketball or volleyball or cheer competitions or Mardi Gras. Yes, there's probably going to be some other additions to that. So it's not the $26 million that everyone's thinking of. Yes, if it were a dedicated ice sheet, 100%, that's where you're looking at. For something to add to it, it's going to be, my estimate, $5 million out of that $100 million pot to just add ice capabilities and to provide an opportunity to utilize those facilities on a more consistent basis throughout the year, instead of saying, all right, hey, we got basketball tournaments for 10 weekends. Okay, what else? Is it going to sit dark? Okay, we have conventions. Okay, well, what else? Mardi Gras balls, what else? So basically, like I've talked about last time, is like utilizing it in the same manner that the Base Center is utilized now. Turn it into a second multi-use facility so that now, all right, Mardi Gras balls, they move over to this new space. All right, what does that do? A couple things. That frees up a weekend potentially for us to utilize. That frees up a weekend for Junior Ice Flyers or the Figure Skating Club to host tournaments or competitions. It frees up another weekend for Michael Capps and his team to bring in another concert or another event. So it's like all these things are coming in full circle. So now, and you're talking about a master plan, now we're talking about something that the community can actually truly utilize, but also seeing different elements throughout the entire calendar year to really maximize, the investment. So I got a lot of other stuff I can talk about, but like I said, I'll gladly sit with anybody and chat all day long about this stuff. But any questions?
No, Greg, I think what you're doing with the Ice Flyers is great for the community. I think for myself and probably the board, the Base Center we've lost money on, and we want to have a good ROI if we spend a lot of money to renovate it. I think that's the concern. Obviously, we're optimistic, with what's going on in Mobile. I think that we could be more competitive than they are if we built the right center. But yeah, what you're doing with the Ice Flyers is obviously doing great things for our community. Commissioner May, you want to go in the Commissioner Strip?
Greg, your economic impact is $500,000 a year. How much is your direct economic impact from
mine?
Ice Fly?
No, we're.
Yeah, maybe I missed a number. I'm just reading something. What is your economic impact?
Ours that last one we did was 2017 when and now we've had a 45.9% increase in attendance. So we're looking at an estimated about 20 to 25 million annually.
Really?
Yes, yeah, because it was $1 million for one weekend, 2 games, and then with their 28-game schedule, just multiply that out by 14, and obviously there's other factors involved. I understand that, but then if you take that from a 2017 attendance numbers to our attendance numbers now at a 45.9% increase, you're looking at and a lot of other things, because we're doing a lot more in the community and everything else that we're doing. A part of that we weren't doing in 2017. So that's where that $20 to $25 million annually economic impact comes from.
So in terms, doing that study, 29% of your participants came from Santa Rosa. Is that consistent now?
That's that's just that study that I sent you, that just to have that backing for what I emailed you. But I can get some of that data to you.
You think that's pretty consistent, that 29% of your attendees are from?
We're seeing actually more and more. The last few years, we've actually our demographics got a lot younger, and it's probably a lot to do with their COVID year, when everyone was all the young kids were looking for something to do, and we're pretty much the only thing in town going on. But also too, what we're seeing, we're constantly getting more and more groups from like the Destin area, Panama City, just South Alabama area. Like we're seeing that our footprint expand way further than Escambia County and even just the next Santa Rosa County.
I appreciate it, Greg. And Mr. Chairman, Mike, it's kind of, my thoughts of, whatever that number is, if it's 29% and we're doing Santa Rosa High graduations and they don't have a venue in Santa Rosa, that, Santa Rosa County, I mean, nothing would stop them from being a contributor, to the overall plan, because Santa Rosa County utilizes our base center, in my opinion,
Well,
a lot.
incorrect, and for high schools, we do host 3 Santa Rosa County high school graduations.
Right. And so-
Pace, Navarre, and Gulf Breeze.
Right. And just an option, Mr. Chairman, I'm saying they utilize it. I mean, it would be great if Santa Rosa County would be a willing participant financially as we move forward, because they do utilize it a lot.
We charge them for that though, right?
Yeah, we
You
rent it
charge
to
them
them.
for that? We rent it, okay.
Yeah, we rent, just like we do the school board.
Yeah.
But still, as we're looking for the mixture or the formula of how do we have participating school districts, I think Santa Rosa should at least be considered or asked.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Strober?
The last time you and I talked, Mr. Harris, you were paying for ice time somewhere else
Yes.
for practice.
Yeah. So regularly, and that's just because there's other events going on and there's no other ice. So yeah, during the Sun Belt tournament, I begged our commissioner not to do this, but he happened to not give any home games that weekend, which I was like, oh my gosh, we have no ice and no games in general. Sorry, not even just home games. Sorry. And yeah, so I spent about $12,000 just to send the team over to Biloxi and skate for that day, and then stay a night and another day. I mean, I spend typically over about $100,000 a year just to send our team to other markets a couple days ahead of time, just so we can skate. So, and I would much rather put that money into another pay another facility and stay here, because then that's the difference with us too, is we're here. Our money stays local. We're not, some big concert performer that flies into town hours before the concert, performs, sells out the Base Center, takes his money and leaves town. We're here. We're consistently here. We're consistently in the community. We're consistently helping and really trying to impact every way we can potentially.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Hopper?
Awesome, thank you. You're a great community partner, so first and
Thank you.
foremost, thank you for that.
Appreciate
And
it.
everyone says that, anyone I
Oh,
talk to, so
thank you.
thank you for being that. I know nothing about ice sports tournaments, so these are great numbers, but how many tournaments could we expect to host per year? Because I'm guessing there's different age groups.
If it's that consistency, there's multiple. I mean, you can, truly as much as, because here's the other thing too, is that, okay, Mardi Gras balls, if this is a facility, depends on what it's looking like, it could get utilized by others. So as long as there's a second ice sheet, that's where things go up exponentially. If you have one, and there's not that same thing, same concept that Ray was talking about. You need a certain amount of courts to actually host something effectively. So you can, you multiply that out. Probably, they're gone. I don't know if anyone's, I didn't see anybody from junior high while I was here, but they're constantly gone, and even out throughout the summer. Is someone here? Oh, hey. How many tournaments?
So we could get 5 weekends at $1.5
Oh,
million
at least.
each.
That'd be probably a minimum. Yeah. That'd be I would safe to say that'd be a true minimum on what you can actually utilize.
Those are great numbers. Thank you so much.
All right, Greg, thanks for that
appreciate it.
comment, and I really appreciate all you're doing for the community. In the interest of time, we got 2 more speakers, and then final thoughts. I'm hoping we can get out by 11. Walker, would you like to make a comment on behalf of the DIB?
Sure, and thanks for having this conversation today and having us be a part of it. The DIB, as you all know, is another special taxing district we've got downtown. The property owners down here pay an extra 2 mills and on top of the city and the county and school board and everything else. And we try to utilize those funds to keep downtown clean, safe, and get people down here to support the businesses and spend money in those businesses. So to us, our opinion, I sent you all a letter yesterday afternoon, is we just want to see this happen. We don't have an ask. We don't, other than let's go dig some dirt up and start today. We've had conversations, and I've met with Stefan and also folks at the city, and I still got some question marks to figure out before we can finally get to an exact answer, but the DIB is certainly committed financially, whether that's us pulling our own bond to put towards this project, or having a commitment of a dollar figure that we give to the county to go towards your bond, to be able to increase your bond capacity for the project as well. Or, we commit to a certain amount every year. We raise that amount percentage-wise based on how much more tax revenue we get. We see typically around 6.5% growth in tax revenue downtown every year. So, if a bond's 20 or 30 years, you can imagine that number balloons quite a bit. But we know that we're still trying to figure out what's the best options for us. We have a couple more strings attached when we go down a road like that because we're dependent on the city as a government entity, but we are comfortable in saying that if one of these avenues is open for us to go down, one, we want to go down it, and two, it'd be, hopefully somewhere in the range of $4 to $6 million that the DIB over this, a bond period or whatever it may be, would be able to put towards this project and want to see this get up and off the ground. So I'm happy to meet with anybody on county or city staff to help get some of those questions answered so that we can kind of make a decision on what we need to do as an organization. And also happy to have any of you meet with our board members who had some good questions. Michael came yesterday to our board meeting and spoke and presented on this project and kind of what some of the conversations y'all have had as well. So I just here to say we support it. We want to put some money behind it to make sure that we see this happen. And y'all have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. So.
Is there any questions from the board? We're good? Well, I want to thank you. I know yesterday I'm on the DIB, so I probably should just state that as a fact. But I appreciate the DIB board moving forward with that yesterday. Thanks, Walker, for your comments and potential contributions. Mr. Platt, I saw you came in. Would you like to make a comment from Florida West? And thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I apologize for having a kind of double booking today. But thank you so much for having the opportunity to speak to you. We're fully in support of whatever we can do to help support the redevelopment and reconstruction of Bay Center. It's a huge component in quality of life and how we recruit companies and entities to the county. As the owner of Tech Park with PEDC and representing that group, it's important to us as well. The primary focus of the Tech Park is to economic development purposes, but we do see there's opportunities as we look at a holistic sort of review of the entire area where there's ways that we can probably have some shared infrastructure. And I think that would be the best way that Tech Park can participate in this redevelopment project. But a parking deck is going to be necessary if we do fill that the way we should fill the park, with buildings that it's not going to have a lot of room for surface parking, so we need decks, and I think decks off hours from the 8 to 5 would be an absolute benefit to the Bay Center redevelopment.
I just have a question. I know we talked not too long ago that there was potential, and I know we don't get into details, but there were potentially some folks that wanted to move in the Tech Park.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that still moving
Yes, sir.
forward? Okay.
Yes, we've met with them last week, and we've also just signed the documents to get geotech started so we can understand what's in the dirt and soil to see what size buildings we can support on the soil as it is versus heavier foundations. We're doing appraisals as well, so we're moving forward.
Okay,
quickly.
I think that affects the city study a little bit, so I think that information, as soon as we can get more on it's very important.
Yes, sir.
Because, all right, that's all I have.
No, I mean, that's all I was going to ask. Are you guys working with the mayor? I mean, I know he's getting ready to commence his study with what you got currently going on.
Yeah, no other studies from the city standpoint. We do talk to Erica and keep a line of communication open between the city's economic development group and ourselves. Most of that has been around Foiling Week, but going forward on the geotech is just, PEDC board approved that to move forward to go ahead and getting just data on the soil to see.
That's all we're doing, because there's no concept at this point, or?
No. It's just basically say, look at the potential pads, roughly a 30,000 square foot four-plate. Do borings within those that are much deeper, about 30 feet, and then we'll do about 10-foot borings throughout the site to kind of get a good grasp of what's the foundation capability of that soil.
And all the studies will probably be commenced by the time you get to brick and mortar, or?
I'm saying again.
I said the studies will probably have already commenced by the time you start building.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I mean, the geotech will be done in a month or less, hopefully. And so they're going to be scheduling the drilling rigs out there, hopefully for the next week or so. And so after that, we'll have that data.
And you're
We've
doing
gotta move
geotech to
forward.
see,
I'm sorry.
you're doing that for the soil bearings,
To see what the weight, is it a 2-story, 3-story? What's the height that soil will bear? As well as any other things, any other mystery that's in the dirt that could affect the price of what the buildings will be. So if you have to do large caissons or super heavy, foundations to support a larger building, that's going to affect someone's decision to be there because of the cost of construction.
Steve, I've never served on the PEDC, but it seems to me we've had that land for 20-plus years with anticipation of building, and no one has never did any soil bearings or, any study to see could you build on it?
Yeah, I can only speak for the last 3 months.
Well, I know.
Yeah, but I was.
Trust me, it's not you. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
we
the
went back
frustration
in
of
the-
funding.
Yeah, we went back into
thinking
the
of it.
files and could not find active geotech data.
Wow.
If it's there, it's buried or lost.
Wow.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? So I would like to wrap this up. What I'd like to do is anyone at the table, if you have a final thought, please just say it in a minute, and then we'll do it with the commissioners. Does anyone down here have anything that they want to get off their chest with all the comments that we've had? Everyone's good? Okay. How about the board? We good?
So if we are going to move forward in a collaborative study with the city, is that something we have to vote on, or what would be our next step as the board?
We can't vote it.
Right, but we could add it to the agenda for tonight if we needed to.
If we get to a point where there's an official task force, that's another conversation, but I think for now, this is just generalized, moving in the right direction sort of conversation.
So what would be our next step?
That's a good question. I think right now we're moving forward with the studies. And I mean, Mayor, do you have you want to say something on this?
My question or recommendation would be, if you want us to put in writing, this is what we propose to the county, is this, I mean, it's participation, I'm not sure, and then it ends up being joint meetings, or if we want to propose that there's some type of task force or subcommittee, we can go, or both. We could go either direction. I mean, we certainly understand, we're going to have to make tangible what we discussed here. That would be, my guess would be that would be our first step, and then whether that's something tangible for you guys to take any sort of action on.
So for the task force, it definitely sounds like it's moving in the direction of what would be a sunshine law-controlled committee. And if it would just depend, is it going to be a county committee with others from outside entities appointed to it, or is it going to be a city task force with one of our commissioners on it, or what is it going to be? And I think once you tell us what it's going to look like, I can certainly work with the city attorney to work it up accordingly. If it's a county one, we typically do a resolution, lay out how many members, what the duties are, and then we can go from there, provide assistance to the extent that they need it.
DC, are you just appointing this committee, or are you taking it to city council? How are you appointing this committee?
Well, if we had a general agreement that we need some, for the sense of urgency and intentionality, we need some group that can move a little more nimbly than us doing large joint meetings. If we're in agreement on that, then I don't want to speak out of turn. Let I would want to talk to our city attorney, our council staff, and then perhaps I could just get back with county staff and figure out the right. I would just think we would want the right seats, and I would second what I believe you said, Commissioner May, which is, the folks looking to financially participate and all of that. That doesn't mean that we aren't going to hear from those that wouldn't be, but I think you got to start there. Start with who has financial either consequence or investment that's going to be happening here, and making sure. And some of those ones I mentioned, DIB, Florida West, FDOT, City, County. What that mix is, I have no idea. I just wanted to see if that was something you guys were amenable to, and then we could work with your staff on.
I'd certainly
putting
be
that
supportive
together.
of that, Mr. Mayor, and I would ask you to take consideration at least one at-large stakeholder, a citizen.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, that, who we represent, so we don't have a bunch of bureaucrats, sitting there making decisions for the common
Then it'll take a
man.
really long time, yeah.
Yeah, take a little time, We can show you how to delay something.
Right.
Yeah.
But, and I also have no preference of whether if it's city or county. I mean, that's something we can discuss too. It doesn't, off the cuff, I don't really have any preference about that.
I would say whatever is going to be the quickest path forward, because I think we need
I agree.
We need to show the community we're moving forward. So I don't know what the legalities are behind that, but I don't think we care who heads it up as long as it gets done.
Let's make it as simple as possible. We don't have to make it difficult.
Right.
It's gonna be a
We have.
committee.
I think we already have a meeting scheduled, city staff and county staff, on Monday regarding Baptist stuff anyway. So we can just add that to. We'll just talk when we're all face to face then.
Add Chappie James, add everything. Get it all
Yeah.
done in one meeting.
Yeah, trying to get things knocked out.
Get it all knocked out. Hadn't happened since Alex left.
Your word counts high today. All right. Well, in closing, I would like to thank everyone that participated today. Thank you for coming out. I think there was some value to hear from everyone. I look forward to where we end up on it. Sounds like a strategic team to move forward with everyone. And I think with that, I appreciate everyone, and we'll end this. As of now, I plan on, let's have a 5-minute break, and we'll do the agenda review at 11. So do you have a comment, Commissioner Bray?
Mr. Chairman, the agenda is very light.
I'm okay if not. I thought you wanted to go through. Okay, then we can conclude now. This meeting's ended. Be back at 4:30 for public forum.